I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I often worried about, how I was going to be able to adult on my own and pay for things on my own, my rent, my food, get married someday, have kids. As I looked at what I was making and what I'd need to be able to make, there was a big gap. And unfortunately, that challenge has gotten even harder for the youth of today, the Gen Zs and the Millennials. Most of my viewers were born before 1996, but if you were born after 1996, you're a Gen Z or a Millennial. And as I said, I think it's harder, and I think it's harder for three primary reasons. And the first one of those is, it's right in front of us. We all see it every day. It's just housing. Housing has become much, much more expensive for young people today than it ever was before. If you look at what the housing costs as compared to the median household income, it's quite a bit different. In the 1980s, when I was struggling with trying to figure out, am I ever going to be able to buy a house, get married, things like that, I was looking at about 4 times the median household income in the United States is what a median house went for, right? 4 times what the median household makes. And unfortunately now, as of 2020, that number has almost doubled. It's 7x now, the median household income. And that's a big number. That's a big leap that people have to make. It's a huge difference. And as I record this, I'm in Europe right now. It's even worse here. For people in Europe, that number is 8 to 10 times the median household income. So I think it's getting more expensive. And the reality is the world's getting more crowded. It's difficult to build more housing because of all the rules and regulations. And there's good reasons for those rules and regulations, but it's just more difficult. It's more challenging because of the housing thing on it. And actually, I said since 2020, and we all know what happened in the pandemic, the price of housing even went up above where it was before the pandemic. So things are challenging, and unfortunately, they're getting worse. Things are cooling off now. Okay, number 2 is college. I was fortunate. I went to college on a military scholarship, but many of my classmates could pay their own way through state school by working hard 3 months over the summer. Most of my friends were able to pay their room and board by working over the summer. Maybe they had a little bit of help from mom and dad, but a lot of them did not. And that's almost impossible now, and you see it in the numbers. Since when I went to school in the 80s, the average student loan back then was $10,000 when people graduated. And that amount has tripled. It's now $30,000 is what young people on average are graduating from college. And frankly, I thought the numbers were going to be worse. And I think part of that is the burden has shifted to mom and dad. Mom and dad are helping out more, so their child doesn't have those huge student loans that are holding them back. But you know what? Almost 10% of the kids graduating from college today have a student loan of $100,000 or more. That's a big, big number. It impacts the type of work that people do. They have to take a job that will allow them to pay off that student loan as opposed to pursuing their dream. And the college degree is not the path to success that for my parents, neither of my parents went to college, and it was one of their dreams that I'd be able to go to college, because what they saw in their lifetime was it was a path to a secure life. And when I went to college, when most of my viewers went to college, the United States in 1980, 16% of the United States had a college degree. And now that number is almost 40%. It's 38%. And it's good that that is happening. But there's a lot more competition for those jobs that require a college degree. And so getting the college degree is not what it was 40, 50 years ago. And there's so much education available for free online that I think a lot of folks need to really look at and say, what am I getting from this college experience, and what am I paying for it? And depending on what you want to do as a career after college, it may make sense to pay for the expensive schools, but for many of us, I went to a state school, I went to Purdue, and in Indiana, and for many of us, I think going to a state school where the tuition is more affordable, where we're not going to have as much student debt, makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that's number 2. And number 3, this is going to be controversial, but you guys know me, I don't shy away from controversial topics. You know, I think America has really fallen in love with new cars. And we all know, you know, when I was in high school, when I was in college, I could fix my own car. I could go to the library and get the Chilton repair books, put my car up on jacks, and probably do 3/4 of the things that needed to be done on a car. You know, now now cars are like computers. And it's really hard for the average person to work on their car. And all those computers have really driven the price of cars up. The average car payment in the United States, new car payment, average, is over $700 a month. And about 10% of people have a car payment that's $1,000 a month or more. And you know, it's really hard to save money if you're spending that kind of money on your car payments. And people have heard me say this before, but I think one of the least sacrificial ways for many of us to be able to save more money is, instead of buying a new car, buy a 5, 6, 7-year-old car that's in good shape, that presents well, but it's maybe a third of the cost of a new car. Still gets you from point A to point B, and if it's a well-made car, hopefully no maintenance issues. You know, I've always thought it was funny that buying something, you know, it's not unusual for people to spend $50,000, $60,000 nowadays on a car, and that's not like a crazy expensive car. That's kind of a normal car. I've always thought it was unusual that is kind of an impulse buy in the United States, right? They have various car dealerships on the same street. And I know a lot of people that one weekend say, okay, we're going to buy a new car. They don't know what they're going to get. And they go shopping for a new car, and they come home with a $50,000 or $60,000 car or more. You know, for me, I always do my research ahead of time. I enjoy the research process. But I think it's one of the reasons that it's harder for younger people to get ahead now and to save what they need in order to be able to prepare for retirement is, you know, that's a major expense, and it's become an impulse buy. And then I'll give you a bonus. You know, the video title was 3 reasons why Gen Zs and Millennials are struggling. But the bonus one, and it's not a good bonus, but, you know, I think COVID has set people back, right? A lot of us had to hunker down for the better part of 2 years. Companies were cutting back. Their college experience is not what they were hoping it was going to be. And so I think there's going to be some residual effects of that for a while coming up. So unfortunately, COVID has created a headwind in an area that was already super competitive and stressful for people. And so the last thing I want you to think about is, I have a video that talks about why you're likely richer than what you think. Today's video was kind of a negative, talking about headwinds, but this talks about some tailwinds for you in your life. And the title is Why You're Likely Richer Than What You Think. And it gives some statistics of where the average retiree is. And you know what? If you're watching a video like this, you're probably doing very well. Again, why you're likely richer than you think. Different statistics. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.